All right, I'm going to get us started. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today for our annual State of the Cities Forum. I'm Laura Edmonds, the CEO of the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce and Business Recovery Center. We're honored to have our mayors joining us today, so thank you all. And just think about it, a year ago, State of the Cities was our last face-to-face meeting before the COVID shutdown. So I don't know, but I'm certain that I'm speaking for all of us that we're certainly missing the elbow bumps, the face-to-face camaraderie, the energy that we normally have in the room with us. But what we're not missing is the community collaboration that everybody has really come together to support one another throughout the pandemic. And I'm excited that we are, as a collaborative force, that we're all going to work together to ensure that we come out of this on the other side of the pandemic. So I thank you all for joining us. I want to really quickly just say thanks. Our co-host today is the Oregon City Chamber. I want to acknowledge the amazing work that Victoria Meinig has been doing, supporting her own community throughout the pandemic, the collaborative engagement that she's had with us, as well as the other chambers throughout Clackamas County. She's a great and strong leader in our community. I can't thank her. Think of anybody that anybody that better to partner with in this program, and just thank her for all the work that she's doing for our business recovery centers as well. So thanks, Victoria, for your hard work. I want to thank our mayors today. Thank you for the continuing engagement in this program, and for the collaborative work that you do together to keep our region moving forward. I want to acknowledge our mayors individually and thank you for joining us today. Mayor Tom Ellis with the City of Happy Valley, Mayor Tammy Stemple, City of Gladstone, Mayor Mark Gambo with the City of Milwaukee, and our newest mayor, Rachel Lyles Smith with the City of Oregon City. Thank you all for joining us. Before I introduce Victoria to introduce the mayors, I want to take a few moments to thank our sponsors, which is our tradition. So today's event sponsors, and I know they're with us today, is Portland General Electric, Northwest Natural Gas, and Kaiser Permanente. A special thanks to our Chamber's program and chair circle sponsors, Willamette View, Clackamas County Water Environment Services, Columbia Bank, Adventist Health, Amicus Data, Clackamas Review, and Country Financial. And to our vision sponsors to support the advocacy efforts, which are ongoing, nonstop, it seems, Clackamas Federal Credit Union, Clackamas Regional Water Supply Commission, Metro West Ambulance, Miles Fiberglass, MP Plumbing, Oak Lodge Water Services, Portland General Electric, Providence Milwaukee Hospital, Star Oil Co., Cranston Machinery, Double J Construction, and Vigor. And thank you all for your continued support of the Chamber. We appreciate all that you do, because we would not be here if we didn't have the support of our community. Now I'd like to hand it over to Victoria Meinig, CEO of the Oregon City Chamber.
Again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Laura, for the kind words. It's such a pleasure working with you, your team, and of course, our business recovery cohorts. But know that without you in my corner, I would not have come this far. So thanks for being a great partner in crime, and much love to you. I as well would like to thank my sponsors. So our Chair Circle sponsors, Citizens Bank, Elevate Wealth Advisors, Hilltop Mall, Lewis and Clark Bank, Oregon City Garbage Company, Parkin Electric, and Providence Willamette Falls Medical Center. Our supporter level, Iron Glove Studio, Pacific Office Automation. At our advocate level, Double J Construction, Oregon City Geeks and Games, and last but not least, our State of the Community supporters, Clackamas Water Environment Service and Portland General Electric. Again, without you, we couldn't do this. At this time, I want to let you know how engagement can happen. If you have a question, please type them in our Q&A or our chat room, and I will ask them of our mayors when we get them to the Q&A portion of our program. I'm going to ask each of you mayors to please take up to 3 minutes for your opening remarks. If you go over the time, you will hear a little chime, and that will let you know that it's time to wrap it up. But first, it is an honor and a pleasure to introduce our newly elected mayor, Mayor Rachel Lyles Smith, who was just confirmed just yesterday evening. Mayor Lyles Smith is the Chief Information Officer for the Oregon Department of Land and Land, Conservation, and Development. Oh, that's a long title. She has proven herself as a city commissioner to be professional, ethical, consistent, transparent, and balanced in the way she makes her decisions. Rachel's priorities include a holistic and proactive approach to homelessness, affordable housing, supporting the health of our community and neighborhoods while preserving Oregon City's identity via growth decision-making, encouraging economic growth and job creation. Of course, is welcoming all voices and opinions. We are looking forward to working with her. So Mayor Rachel Lyles Smith, please take this time.
Thank you. You want me to give a little intro at this point?
Yep, you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Okay. Well, thanks for having me. Yes, I was sworn in last night, so this is my, I guess, first truly official event as mayor of Oregon City. So I'm excited to be with you all today and looking forward to, I work with these mayors already within Clackamas County. And so I'm sure our continued collaboration will just grow even richer as we move forward in the next couple of years. So, but a couple of reflections on 2020. I'm sure we're all going to share some of the same feelings and things that we went through with the wildfire and COVID and most recently the ice storm. So, you know, many of these things are very fresh in our mind, while at the same time trying to make sure that we're carrying and moving our cities forward with the priorities of our communities. A couple of things I'll mention. For the tree cleanup, you know, Oregon City was hit really hard with the ice storm, and we ended up setting up a location to collect tree debris. We collected 28,000 cubic yards of tree debris, just a crazy amount. And that came from our residential folks, as well as our city operations of just trying to clean up our city. So I'm really proud of how our city came together most really recently to help our community and lift all of us up out of the frozen tundra that we experienced for a week. But, you know, at the same time, this was a really large impact to our park system. So in 2020, I was really excited that we started 3 brand new park projects. And you know, pairing new park projects at the same time of experiencing an ice storm, which severely damaged so many trees, you know, I'm really excited. And then at the same time, I see that there's a lot of work to be done to kind of repair our urban canopy, and that work will clearly continue into this year. We started a couple of new transportation projects that are really exciting. One is under construction, and nobody's happy about the construction on Malala Avenue, and I get it, but this is a really big improvement. It's working on our water infrastructure. It's providing pedestrian and ADA sidewalks, curb ramps. And so it's frustrating to go through construction, but we will all be excited and happy about it at the end of this year when it's completed. I guess last but not least, I'll mention we completed one big construction project of our new police and court facility in 2020, which is a really nice success. And we are underway with the operations facility for our public works and our parks maintenance division. So that one will be completed this year. So a lot of big projects, a lot of things happen in Oregon City, and I'm excited to work on it.
Wonderful, thank you. Mayor Tom Ellis, the City of Happy Valley.
Thank you, Victoria. Pleasure to be here. It goes without saying that this has been quite a year since we last met for the State of the Cities. In fact, I think it may have been the last in-person gathering I attended. First, I want to recognize some folks. My fellow city councilors, our city staff, community members, business leaders, the chamber, and my fellow mayors. One day we were all running our cities and businesses, and the next we were completely shifting gears to operate in a new virtual environment. Very challenging. Much of our time as a city this last year has been responding to COVID-19. Just because we were in a global pandemic, the rest of the work did not stop. That makes me so proud of our team. Some of the things we continue to work on were design and plan for a future downtown, evaluate lands to acquire for a community park and community center, improve public safety following the renewal of our public safety levy, manage growth in a thoughtful and strategic manner, develop new parks and recreation programs following the withdrawal from NCPRD, improve the transportation system through the Superblock sidewalk project and the design of 172nd Avenue. We created a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force, assisted regional partners in response to the devastating wildfires we saw this last summer. In all, this has been a remarkably busy year. I couldn't be more proud of our team and all we have accomplished together in this past year. Thank you. Victoria, you are muted.
See, too many buttons today. Dealing with the timer, dealing with the, so sorry. All right, now on to Mayor Tammy Stemple with the City of Gladstone.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to take the opportunity to first thank everyone that has stepped up during the past year and made a difference in our communities. 2020 was a year that tested everybody, and so many were pushed to the brink, but people came together in so many ways and helped wherever they could. Again, this past year has been incredibly difficult, starting with a global health crisis that proved beyond the shadow of a doubt how vulnerable we all are, to financial devastation for so many, isolation, loneliness, and depression, mental health crises to a scale that we've never seen before, social issues dividing our country, wildfires that further tested our resiliency, along with a polarizing political season, and that's putting it mildly, on both the national and the local level. And despite all of that, the City of Gladstone completed some pretty impressive projects. First, we addressed the housing needs on a policy and a code level with the help of the Department of Land Conservation and Development, also referred to as DLCD. The outreach piece had to be a little bit creative. We were kind of winging it, but we were able to get it accomplished. Gladstone is the recipient of the first affordable housing bond dollars in Clackamas County. It's a low-income senior project that's going to be redeveloping an abandoned building. The Trolley Trail Bridge feasibility study was completed and gave our citizens 5 design alternatives to weigh in on. So we're moving forward with that. And the project is going to have a huge impact on not just Gladstone, but the region. We completed the final rate increase for our utilities, which is never fun, but it's finally putting us in a position where we can stay ahead of inflation and start making some repairs. We took a really conservative approach, but that's what our citizens wanted. We were able to iron out details of governance agreements pertaining to our wastewater and freshwater system. We participated in I-205 tolling discussions, very loudly saying how horrible it's going to be to our streets. We held listening session on social justice, equity, and inclusion, and we followed that up with a resolution condemning violence and racism. We completed the final phase of the Meldrum Bar dredging project, so a lot of fisher folk out there are happy about that. We entered into an agreement with West to address the infiltration and inflow. It's great having these awesome partnerships. We're off and running on the design of our new library. We rebranded our city with a new logo and tourism strategy. This is our new logo. We've implemented a parking fee at Meldrum Bar Park so that we actually have the funds to maintain the park and invest in some recreational opportunities that everybody wants. But the accomplishment that I'm most proud of is the completion of our new Civic Center, which is both housing our City Hall and Police Department. It's something that is well-deserved, and we were able to do it on time, on budget, using the progressive design build process, which I highly recommend to everybody. The pandemic gave us the opportunity to step up and help our community by launching a COVID emergency business assistance matching funds program. We gave citizens discounts on their utility bills. We implemented a parklet program for small businesses. We provided space for Clackamas County's food distribution program to store and build the food boxes. And we partnered with St. Vincent de Paul to administer emergency financial assistance. And I almost forgot Labor Day weekend wildfires that engulfed our entire county. We provided regional support for those displaced due to the evacuations. We opened up our parks and our churches for everybody that needed a place to stay. And we also pulled a ton of food together for all of those that are in need.
Thank
And
you.
all of this in just 12 months. Every single day, I'm amazed how our small staff can accomplish so much and under the conditions that we were placed in. They keep us safe, healthy, and constantly moving forward, and they don't get enough credit. So I want them to know they are truly the ones that hold us all together. And I can tell you that our Emergency Operations Center has been very well used. The takeaway for me is that I am in awe of the resiliency and caring found within my village, which has inspired me in ways I never imagined. And I know in Gladstone now we can do anything. You want to be a part of that? Let me know. We've got some houses for sale. We'd love to see you in Gladstone.
Thank you so very much. All right. So Mayor Gamba, you only have 2 minutes, right? But I'd like to introduce Mayor Mark Gamba with the City of Milwaukee. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this once again. I miss seeing everyone in person. I think Mayor Stemple did an outstanding job of describing the year we've had. It's been a hell of a year. The cities of North Clackamas have weathered a couple decades worth of disasters during the last 12 months with very little help from the federal government until recently. In Milwaukee, we've so far committed $50,000 in rental assistance to keep our neighbors whose already low incomes were curtailed by job losses caused by the pandemic, keep them in their homes. We've used $252,000 from our construction excise tax fund for grants to our small businesses that were suffering economically due to the pandemic. We also did parklets for our restaurants to help keep them at least alive. We hope to use as much as possible or necessary from the long overdue federal assistance to further both of those efforts so we don't exacerbate homelessness or the loss of businesses. We've ramped up our efforts to make our city entirely equitable after the murder of George Floyd and the resultant protests against systemic racism. We invited our BIPOC community to engage with the city leadership, in particular our outstanding police department, towards improving every aspect of the city's interactions with our neighbors of color. We've ramped up our efforts to reduce our climate impact over the year in many ways, but most importantly in 2 bills that we are deeply involved in during this legislative session. I think the catastrophic wildfires and the destructive ice storm are only mild warnings of the things to come. Should we continue with business as usual and ignore our effect on the climate. We had our first hearing at the Planning Commission on the 500 units of affordable housing that we hope to see built in central Milwaukee in partnership with the Clackamas Housing Authority. We also have other efforts in the works to make sure that our community members whose income has not kept up with the skyrocketing costs of housing do not end up in the death spiral of homelessness. Right now, there are more units of new housing in the pipeline in general than at any time in the last half century here in Milwaukee. And we are in the finishing touches of code and zoning changes spurred by our new comprehensive plan that will allow even more creative solutions to market-built housing that is affordable to a broader spectrum of families. I'm particularly excited by some of the unique and forward-thinking projects that some developers are considering that create workforce housing, create new Oregon jobs in new industries, and address the changes required by climate change. All in all, the staff and the residents in Milwaukee have continued to move forward and thrive even during this most difficult year. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Mark. All right, so now we're going to begin a Q&A session with the mayors. We're going to try to allow for 2 to 3 minutes each, most like 2 minutes at this point, as we get through to some session, through the questions. All right.
Are you ready, Victoria?
Let's
Okay. You'll start with Tammy's question.
Okay.
Okay.
Tammy, in what ways has the city helped local businesses during COVID?
Oh boy, there was so many. We had the matching program for small businesses when COVID first started. We had the Parklet program. Sorry, it's just kind of a blur because there's so many pieces that we've done onto this one. We gave credits for utility bills. And of course, we're always out there encouraging people to visit our local businesses. We also partnered with St. Vincent de Paul to help get funds in their hands to help pay rent or utilities or whatever they seem they're lacking. So I don't know. I can't think of anything else directly that we've done. Everybody had to be closed down for so much of the year that it's really hard to get your arms around it.
Oh, that's perfect. Victoria, I'm going to mix it up a little bit if you don't mind. So Tom, you mentioned, because we're just flip-flopping real quick, Victoria. Tom, you mentioned the city focused a lot of efforts in response to COVID-19. What did that entail? And more specifically, we know that local businesses were impacted significantly from government restrictions. Did the city help?
We did focus a lot on COVID-19 this year and the business assistance. The city created a business task force consisting of business leaders, city councilors, and staff members with the purpose of creating a one-stop shop website so that people knew who was open and what they were open for. This was a big support to our businesses. We also, with the support of my fellow city councilors, and the city provided 5 rounds of small business assistance grants offering rent and mortgage relief to our small businesses. The city awarded over 120 grants totaling nearly $1 million. Depending on the level of restrictions businesses were facing, they received 1 to 4 months of rent payments, and these were grants that do not have to be paid back. Our city staff examined all amenities at city facilities and parks to be compliant with guidance from the Oregon Health Authority that seemed to change daily. To assist with overcrowding at Happy Valley Park and in the playgrounds, we created a park ambassador position, utilizing an education-first approach to compliance with guidelines of the Oregon Health Authority. Finally, we transitioned library services, so virtual programs and curbside pickups. The Happy Valley Library became a model that was used across the state and was even featured in Idaho. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Rachel, what is the latest update on the Willamette Falls Legacy Project?
That's a good question. It's a very important project for Oregon City and this region and state as a whole. So there's really 2 pieces of this project when I describe it. There's the public access, what we call the walkway known as the Riverwalk, and then there's the private development aspect of the project. So earlier this year, the tribe shared with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project officials an alternative riverfront concept that developed what we're calling the first phase of the Riverwalk. This alternative concept still supports our legacy project's 4 core values, and the Riverwalk conceptual design also meets Grand Ron's site cleanup and development goals. Like the original phase 1 concept, the new proposal exceeds the $12 million that we have available to fund the project. So Metro is our project leader, and they are in negotiations with the tribe to identify a phase 1 version of the Riverwalk that can address, the cost. The cost is, and the funding restrictions are pretty significant, while at the same time making sure we're allowing, we're not impeding, I'll say we're not impeding any future development of the site. So there's negotiations going on with the tribe regarding some of the details of the Riverwalk concept, but overall what the tribe proposed to the partners was approved, and we're really hoping to see that move forward. And if I can be really hopeful, I would love to see construction start, I believe, in 2023. That would be our goal. There's lots of permitting and stuff that has to happen between now and then, but that would be a good goal for us to have. For the other piece of the property, which the tribe obviously owns, I'm calling that the, is that my 2 minutes? Property development piece. I'll just say the tribe just released a vision statement, so for their plans for that development. So if you haven't seen it, check out the tribe's website for their vision.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Great. We're really looking forward to seeing the futures of that project. So Mark, Mayor Gamba, in light of COVID and all the community functions that Milwaukee has held in the past, what is your plans to continue the community spirit for small gatherings and summer programs? This is a really long question, so I'm just consolidating for lack, to try to be concise here. So what's the future of the summer celebrations and farmers markets for Milwaukee?
Yeah, we're playing it a little bit by ear, as we all are, with sort of the increasing COVID cases again. But generally speaking, our farmers market will function like it did last summer, which was almost normal. There weren't live bands, and there were a few less booths and things like that, but it felt pretty normal there last summer. People did a pretty good job of staying socially distanced and wearing masks and all the things, and we didn't seem to have any problems from that. We are going to be kicking off a thing again that we did last sort of late summer. I think it'll take place in May this year. We called Porch Fest, which was Friday evenings. There were musicians playing on people's porches all over the city, and we would produce a map, and folks could go hear live music in small groups because, of course, there were several performances occurring at once. So it's kind of perfect for COVID because you get out, you get to see people, but it's not a big crowd. And then we'll be doing our it's so early days on this, but to describe exactly what it's going to look like. But we're going to have another sort of what we call the Carefree Sunday, which is opening up a bunch of city streets to walkers and bikers and roller skaters and all forms of non-vehicular travel. And then it used to be we had events along the way. This year we're coming up with some new ideas to try and keep that socially distanced, just in case it's not, we haven't all gotten our vaccines by then.
Great, thank you, Mayor Gamba. Appreciate that. So here's a little bit of a softball for y'all, and each one of you can take a quick minute just to respond. So what's your position on tolling, and how do you feel that that's going to impact your community? Mayor Gamba, since you're up, I'll let you go first. We'll go with Mayor Stemple, Mayor Ellis, and then Mayor Smith.
In 1 minute, that's a tough one. We have a transportation system that we have been sort of ignoring for quite a while, and we have to fund it some way. We have not, the state doesn't seem to be able to come up with the funds. The federal funds have been shrinking, gas taxes are shrinking. So we're going to have to come up with some way to do it. And I have long pushed back on the concept of individual point tolling, like at the bridge or for the Rose Quarter or things like that, because it's just going to divert traffic out into the neighborhoods and the parallel infrastructure. So I think that's a poor way to do it. A system-wide process on all of the interstate might be a little bit better. But again, I don't think it's the perfect solution. True congestion pricing that helps fund not only that infrastructure fix, but helps fund other ways for people to get to work that aren't cars, that and aren't going to cost them, $10 per trip or whatever it's going to be, is the right way to do it. And to my knowledge, that's not really even being considered here in Portland yet.
Okay, thank you. Next up.
Is that me?
Yep.
Well, I'm going to say no right off the top. We do not want this tolling project. I don't think that they've actually listened to all of the people that don't want it. It is going to impact Gladstone's roads so significantly. Every time there's a little accident on 205, you cannot drive through our city. We don't have a whole lot of money for transportation upgrades. It's going to put us so far behind. We need to look at other alternatives. And honestly, I commute to Sherwood every day. So that's something that's going to impact me directly. And when everybody was working from home, there was nobody on the roads and it was awesome. So maybe we need to redirect our funds into encouraging people to work from home.
Thank you. Mayor Ellis.
Well, the Happy Valley City Council has not taken a position on this, so I can only speak for myself on this. I am not crazy about tolling. I think it creates problems such as diversion, which some have already spoken about. And I'm not totally convinced the money is going to go where it really needs to go. So at this point, I am not in favor of it. I understand we need money to improve our roads and streets, but I'm not sure this is the way to go. So I haven't been convinced. So at the present time, I'm a no.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll start by saying I really like how Mayor Gamba characterized the issue, because it's true that we need funding, and most of our concerns are about how ODOT is at the current time planning the implementation of the tolling, along with ignoring other things that we see need to go hand in hand if we are going to implement tolling. So just as it's presented now on its face in general, I would say I don't know anyone on our city commission that would support tolling. We are heavily concerned about diversion, as Mayor Stemple mentioned, and tolling the Abernathy Bridge just in itself seems very concerning to me, of picking that location. And ODOT has taken the strategy of, well, we have to start somewhere. I believe that Mayor Gamba and others in Clackamas County have some real ideas if the legislature will listen to us.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and pull from another of the questions from our chat room. And there's many, so bear with me. I'm not certain we're going to be able to get to everything today. So please, if we don't, feel free to reach out to your individual mayors, right, for the questions. But let me ask this. There's a combination of things going on here. So for all four of you, and again, if we can keep it short, but what role do you see your city playing in moving forward to address the childcare wasteland that we have for working families, those that are actually able to go back to work right now, let's be honest. So because with still school partial closures and the hybrid model, but daycare is still very much at a loss, excuse me. So what is your individual city's plans to help working families out? Rachel, since you're up, go ahead and just take that one.
I was hoping you were going to start with me. I actually haven't heard that our city staff are bringing forth any proposals on this issue. I think it's been identified as an issue. So I'm just being honest and saying that I'm not sure that we have any silver bullet solutions right now, acknowledging that it is a significant issue in the community and affects our workforce and our obviously it ties to our economic development. But I'm not sure. I don't believe our city has tackled any solutions to it. So I'm all ears and happy to hear some suggestions, and maybe the other mayors can help expand on this topic.
Thank you. And let's flip the switch and go to Mayor Ellis on this one.
Well, as Mayor Smith said, we have really not tackled this head on. Staff, we just haven't done a lot of work on this. It is a concern, no doubt about that. I think sometimes that working with the school district on this might be a good plan. I know sometimes they do provide childcare for certain individuals, and maybe that would be the direction to go. They may not want to hear that, I don't know, but I think that might be some way to alleviate some of these problems. If you have someone that is already set up for it, maybe they could expand with some help from government and maybe make that work.
Thank you. And Mayor Stemple.
I'm gonna say basically the same things, is that we really haven't discussed it on a council or a city staff level. It seems to be something that the school district is a little bit more focused on. We have the Gladstone Center for Children and Families right in our downtown core, and that is a group that helps families that are in need. So I think it's definitely being discussed, but unfortunately not at our level. But I'm more than happy to have those discussions. I have a friend that is paying $1,800 a month for childcare. I can't even imagine that. So she can barely afford it, but it's something that she has to do. So yeah, I think we definitely need to have some discussions. And I think I heard that the infrastructure plan is, there's some money set aside in that for affordable childcare. So it's going to definitely be something that's higher up on priorities, I think.
Great, thank you. And Mayor Gamba.
Thanks. Well, we know that the cost of childcare and availability of childcare to a lot of working families was out of hand, out of reach before the pandemic, and the pandemic has just made it worse with school closures. The city specifically itself is not at this point engaged in this. There's a committee that I occasionally attend, and Wilda Parks has been attending regularly, working on this to look for solutions for training new childcare workers and for looking for new locations for new childcare facilities. It's expensive to do both. It's expensive to rent a place. It's expensive to properly pay well-qualified people to do that. And then that cost has to be passed on to the parents. People's wages have not kept up with those kinds of costs, let alone housing or anything else. So it is a serious problem that we've got all over Oregon, but definitely here in the metro region. And I think we're going to have to take some more government forward efforts towards subsidizing childcare to some degree, so that working parents aren't using all of one person's wages just to pay for childcare.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Gamba. I believe Victoria has a question to ask next.
So we'll start with Tammy. How is the city addressing the unhoused and the growing homeless population?
Well, we're addressing it by first having the very first affordable housing bond project in Gladstone, which is supposed to be completed, I believe, spring of 2022. And that's specifically for low-income seniors. And we're giving a priority to Gladstone residents. And then we're also in the process of our housing needs assessment. The problem with Gladstone is that we don't have room to grow. All we can do is infill. I think the last evaluation we had maybe 4 acres that was potentially developable, not much. So we're just trying to figure out how we can possibly put in ADUs, small pocket projects that will help address that. But again, we're so bound by our 4 square miles that we have to come up with really creative solutions, and that's going to take a bit of thinking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Ellis? Oh,
I was going to say, if any other mayor at this point would like to weigh in on that question, please do so. And then we'll roll into another question directed at Tom. You're okay.
I'll be brief. The homeless problem is a big problem. We all know that. Our our planning commission just approved a 148 unit low income housing project. We are really happy about that. It's got a little way to go in the design review, but that's coming. So I think we all need to do our part. It's a big conversation that we can't do in a minute here. So I think I'll leave it with that and hand it over to Mayor Gamba.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, as I said in my comments at the beginning, the Planning Commission just approved a 500 unit low income housing development in partnership with the county. We also land banked a piece of property maybe 3 years ago that we're intending to put more low income housing on. Another piece to it is the money we spent trying to keep people in their homes during the pandemic. Keeping people in housed when they are housed helps stop the bleeding, so we can so we're not making the problem worse. And I think that's something that all of us and the state are going to have to really concentrate on as this federal money comes in, and make sure that we don't end up with a whole bunch of folks that end up homeless because they had no income during the pandemic and they have back rent. But we are going to have to keep working. The money that the Metro bond measure created is going to help a lot with building new units, but it's still 1/5 of the solution. And that was before the pandemic.
Thank you.
I'll also be super brief. Many of you know we hired a homeless liaison officer, one of the first hired in the Metro region at our police department. And this past fall, we hired our first behavioral health, mental health specialist. She's a coordinator, and she will be working with all of our city departments, including the police department, on the behavioral health and mental health aspect of the homeless community. So I think that's a really big resource that Oregon City needed to add to its staffing to help. And because it's like Mayor Gamba said, housing's one sliver. I think mental health is a sliver of the pie. So there's a whole bunch of pieces to this issue. For Oregon City, we also, I feel like we have not really had a good strategy for Oregon City. We haven't had a committee that's been put together to think, what do we as a city want to do, and how can we, other than hiring additional staff, I think to me this has felt needed. It's absolutely been beneficial, but it felt a little bit like a Band-Aid approach. And so I'm hoping with this new biennium, our goal is to create a real strategy of how we're going to collaborate, how we're going to tackle and work on housing and work on the homelessness issue.
Thank you all. I mean, it looks to me that there's a lot of opportunity for all the cities to really come up with some great solutions. And I love that you guys are all, I believe you guys are all taking collaborative approaches. So thank you very much. So a question, let's lob another softball at you guys. And please each take turn responding if you wish. Racial justice has been the forefront nationally this year. I think Mayor Gamba's kind of already alluded to some of this in his opening remarks, but how are your cities responding to that? And then it kind of ties in with an additional question in the chat room about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So let's kind of combine the two and just kind of, for each of one of you, kind of identify how you're dealing with those very important topics. And we'll start with Mayor Gamba.
Sure,
Well,
thanks.
this is one of your passions, so I'm going to have to keep you on track.
Yeah, I know. Make that timer chime really loud. So, you know, one of the things we did right away was the council made it one of our 3 goals. When we create a council goal, we actually put funds towards working on that and staff time, and it actually becomes a focus of the entire city. Through that process, we've hired 1 FTE that's doing that work. We've had several meetings, several listening sessions with our BIPOC community over the last 9 months. They're continuing to meet with city leadership and the police department. We're working on our police contract right now. It's involving some of the changes that those conversations have engendered. We've also we're looking at our hiring practices. We're looking at every aspect of the way the city functions and how and weeding out any place where there's sort of that invisible systemic racism that does exist throughout our society. It's like there's a lot more, but it would be a lot of talking. So
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Ellis?
Thank you. This is another one of those big issues. We all know that. I'm really proud that Happy Valley has just kind of taken this head on. A lot of you may be surprised, but based on census data, Happy Valley is the second most racially diverse city in the Portland area. And like I said, I don't think too many people know that. While the issue of diversity really hit the forefront this last year, many of our efforts actually started a couple years ago. From an internal standpoint, at the direction of our city manager, all our staff has been going through a series of diversity training and workshops. We also hired a consultant to do some internal analysis and identify opportunities in this area. Second, the city established a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. City councilors Drake and Amami serve as the liaisons to this community-led group of approximately 15 people that came from the community. The goal of the task force is to analyze city services and programs and develop strategies for removing barriers that we all know are out there. Lastly, in the response to the killing of George Floyd, the city worked very closely with organizers of a peace march down Sunnyside Road, which many of you probably heard about. And I know Mayor Gamba was there because I saw him. It was one of the largest gatherings in the area, and I'm extremely pleased to say that it was peaceful and impactful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Stemple?
Yes, this is a very huge topic, and something that we have to do right. We can't afford to do this wrong. We are participating in the county's efforts because we feel that, well, we have a very small staff and we're leaning on them for help and guidance. We feel that we can't do this in a vacuum. Absolutely not. We need to do this as a region, as a Clackamas County region, so that we can do it right. We had a listening session with our BIPOC community. We followed that up with a resolution that denounces violence and racism. All of our employees have gone through DEI training. I'm trying to think what else we do. Our police department participates in the Red Door Project, which helps the communication with the police department and the communities of color. We're going to continue having these conversations, and I'm looking forward to the meetings and the progress that the county does. I believe it's a multi-year project, unfortunately, but again, we have to do it right. We can't take shortcuts. We really need to be thoughtful in the approach.
Thank you. And Mayor Smith, and then Victoria will ask the last question of our panel.
Thank you. So last year, we had all of our managers and executive team attend DEI training. That was the start of some of our internal DEI efforts. But really moving forward, this biennium, this is the first biennium that Oregon City has had a goal on DEI. So while we have maybe done some small things within our organization, it hasn't been a goal. And similar to what Mayor Gamba said, when we assign a goal and a priority for our community, that comes with funds. And we're about to enter our budget sessions where we see and we assign funds to projects to make sure our goals and priorities are implemented. So that's a big step forward for Oregon City. So it's a priority. And within that priority, our goal is to create an internal and an external DEI framework. So we believe that there's internal processes and operations that need DEI, a DEI lens applied. And then at the same time, there's the external piece to it. And so our goal is to create a community task force to guide the DEI work. And so all of this is brand new for us. And while, like I said, we've dabbled in it a little bit, but we're really looking forward to the next biennium to really step into this conversation look at it and make it a priority for the city.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Okay, so for the final question, we'll start with Tammy. Do you think that public perceives your city's permitting processes as expeditious, encouraging, and fairly priced? Not do you think they are, but do you think the public thinks they are?
I could barely hear you. Could you say that again?
Yes, sorry about that. Do you think the public perceives your city's permitting processes as expeditious, encouraging, and fairly priced? Not do you think they are, but do you think the public thinks they are?
Well, just got done going through a couple of those issues. I can tell you that our businesses, no, they do not think it's expeditious or fairly priced. We don't have our own planning department or permitting department. We subcontract that out to Clackamas County. So we don't have as much control of it as most other cities. But one of the things I just had a discussion about at the beginning of this week was the need to have a lessons learned meeting to go over a couple issues our businesses just came up against. So the answer is no.
Okay.
Mayor Tom?
Did you say Mayor Ellis?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I know you want what the public thinks, but I'm going to give you what I think first, and then I'll go into the public. I have bragged on our building department and our staff in the city of Happy Valley for years. No offense to anybody else, but I think they're the best in the state. And I say that all the time. Enough for me. As far as the public goes, the feedback that we get from the public is 99.9% positive. Our customer service skills in our building department is above anything I've ever seen. These people really care about what's going on in our city. They want to help the builders, the public, whoever comes into the building department. They want to help these folks out because they want a good city, and they want to see it happen, and they want to help them out any way they can. So I have to say, yes, I do believe that the public, the only thing they might not like is what they pay. And we don't have control of all of that. Some of that stuff goes somewhere else. But overall, I think our public would say, yes, they do get a great customer service and good value for their dollar.
Thank you. Mark?
Thanks. Very much like Tom, all of the feedback I've ever gotten on our building department and our inspector and Sam Vandergriff, Samantha Vandergriff, our building department head has been outstanding. They very often say they would much rather build in Milwaukee than Portland or anywhere else because of how responsive she is and quick. Our turnaround has been really good. It's slowing building that we have so much building going on that it's hard to keep up these days, but we have an outstanding department. And price wise, I think, you know, it's relative to everybody else and I've never gotten complaints about it. You know, it takes staff time to do it, and that's what we charge for, is the staff time. We're not, you know, making money per se on charging fees. So
Thank you. Rachel?
Thank you. So I would say I think it's a mixed bag. I've heard both. I've heard that we have worked on our process and there are plenty of folks who think the customer service is good. But then at the same time, I feel like there's always cases that I seem to hear about that prove that there's always improvements and efficiencies and things that you kind of scratch your head and say, why did it take so long to go to happen? And so I really feel like it's a mixed answer. So you know, government, I really feel should always be looking at their processes and ways to improve. We're all human. We don't get everything right. And so if we can be open to improvement and open to change, then that's the best we can do and start making some changes based on feedback Regarding the fees, very similar to Mayor Gamba, we have looked at our fees, and they are directly associated with staff time for processing of the permits. And so I feel like they're pretty balanced. We have in the last year made some changes to some of the fees. The ones we've heard about the most have been appeal fees, and we've really tried to reduce some of those fees to make sure that the checks and balances of our system, so that it's not prohibitive to be a checker and to provide checks and balances on our system. We don't want our appeals fees and stuff like that to be so outrageous that there's no ability for folks to provide that check and balance of our system. So anyway, I'll stop there.
Okay, I think we got through everybody on that one. So since we are 4 minutes to our adjournment time, I'm going to go ahead and ask each of you to do your 2-minute wrap up. Summarize what you wish, add additional comments, but please go ahead and take your 2 minutes. And since Rachel, you're already a front and center, go ahead and do that. We'll go then to Mayor Ellis, Mayor Stemple, and we'll close with Mayor Gamba. So go ahead, Rachel.
Thanks. And I have a 1 o'clock meeting, so I will exit as soon as this is over. Just apologies for the quick exit. So I'm really proud of our city commission in the last couple of months of thinking about our goals for the next biennium. We thought really hard about how can we revamp our process and make sure that our priorities are aligned with the projects that are going to happen on the ground. So I'm really hopeful that this budget season that we're about to enter, well, there will be a direct alignment with our goals. And just to highlight some of our goals for the next biennium, we have a continued focus on our capital infrastructure. We have to make sure our stormwater systems and our water systems are functioning and are maintained. We want to improve our engagement efforts with the community. We want to make sure that we can somehow make sure we hold on to our hometown feel and showcase our unique identities. So promote tourism and economic development. We've talked a little bit about housing and homelessness. Both of those are priorities and goals, and for the city. And I'm really hoping that we're able to maybe grow up a little bit, act a little bit more like a big city, and take charge and be a little more proactive on these big issues. And then finally, I'll say DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. It's a new goal and priority for the city. And I think our city commission and city staff are really happy and excited to make it a priority and move this item forward in the next biennium. So lots of great work that's happening, and I'm really proud of our staff. They work really hard, and they show up at work and they work really hard to make our community a better place. And so it's a pleasure to work with them.
Thank you. Before you drop off, I want to say thank
Yes.
you. I know Victoria does too. We look forward to all the great things that you're going to do in your new capacity. So
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for the quick departure.
Appreciate it. Next.
Okay. As I mentioned before, it's been quite a year for all of us, and it's one that I'm sure we're never going to forget. I'm excited for next year because I think there may be some light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe things will return to as normal as possible soon. I just want to highlight a few projects we've lined up for 2021. We're going to finalize the Pleasant Valley North Carver Comprehensive Plan. This is an area of 2,700 acres that will one day become new homes, businesses, parks, and places for people to work. We're going to develop a plan for a future downtown in Happy Valley. We're going to evaluate a framework for a future climate action plan in our city. We're going to work to reduce future wildfire risks inside and outside the city. And we're going to review regulations for short-term rental properties. We're going to complete sidewalk gaps around the super block, complete a master pedestrian plan, develop new parks and recreation programs, start a community center feasibility study.
Mm-hmm.
And another important part is acquire property for future parks, community center, design the widening of 172nd Avenue, the C2C corridor, Continue Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. And I'm very excited about it. We're going to complete a Veterans Memorial at the City of Happy Valley City Hall. I want to thank all my fellow city councilors, city manager Tuck, and our entire team for what they've done. Finally, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and all local businesses for making it through this year. I know it's been tough.
My turn.
Mhm.
Last year, saying that we've been challenged doesn't even remotely reflect what we've all been through. And I do mean every single person has been through this. And Mark and Tom, how did I miss that class on how to be a mayor during constant crisis conditions? I'm not going to forgive you guys for not telling me that that class existed. But despite all of that, the city of Gladstone is hopeful. We're a little bit wary of what 2021 is going to bring, especially considering it started with another disaster. I can tell you that due to 2 inches of ice, having meetings during 6.5 days with no power, no showers, no laundry, living off of peanut butter, jelly, and chips was not a whole lot of fun. We've gone through a lot together as a community and as a region, and we're aware more now than ever of how much we really are going to have to depend on each other. So we're all crossing our fingers, hoping that there's nothing but good things coming our way. No matter how hard it's been and continues to be, we're coming out the other side, I think, stronger and more connected than we've ever been. We all have to remain positive, and we're determined to achieve what needs to be done to help our city, our businesses, and our citizens not only move forward, but recover. We know it's going to pass, but we also know that it's going to be hard work, and we're all going to have to pitch in and do what we can. My commitment for the rest of my term is to make resiliency a priority. We clearly cannot afford to not be prepared. So I hope that this is something we can go after on a regional basis. So in the meantime, I hope everybody is safe and to please continue to be kind.
Thank you. And Mayor Gamba, there he
Yep.
goes, bring us home.
All right. Well, I want to start by, again, thanking the chamber, not only for this, but, you guys, along with the churches, along with every nonprofit, all the cities, the counties, the health departments, everyone kicked in. I'm so proud of our community, the community of North Clackamas, if you will, or of the entire county, the region, frankly, for the way everyone stepped up to address all of the issues that we've been facing this year. It was brutal. And as hard as it was and as bad as it was, if you look, Oregon actually did really well in the pandemic. I think we had the 4th least death toll out of all the states. That's impressive, and a lot of that is due to the work of the county health departments. Years like this are what actually show the mettle of a place and a community and how well they pull together. So I just want to say kudos to everybody. Good job. Hopefully the light is at the end of the tunnel this summer. We will all be able to see each other in person and meet at the farmers market and things like that. I want to thank my staff, which has been absolutely extraordinary this year. They are always extraordinary. Ann Ober and her team are phenomenal. Our city punches way over its weight in the work that we accomplish. We're continuing to build out our $52 million worth of active transportation, safe routes to school, things like that. We've got all kinds of development coming, and we're keeping it in a manner that is not destroying the fabric of our city. It's just enhancing the fabric of our city and making it a more vibrant city. So I'm excited about the coming years and working with my fellow mayors and the rest of the city councilors and folks from this region. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Gamba. And I just want to thank you all for participating today. We truly appreciate the relationship that we have with our cities, our mayors, the county. And I know Victoria might have a wrap-up statement on her own. I just want to thank you all. So we are here for you. And as we continue our efforts in advocacy and just delivering different services as your chambers of commerce, we are here for you too, to help support each one of you in your endeavors. So let us know at any point in time what more we can do to help our cities. And so Victoria, I think you might have are you good?
You covered it. Thank you so much. And again, thank you guys all for your time.
Thank you all. And please don't forget, the chambers in your cities all are still offering up PPE services and equipment. We also have some consulting services that are free to our business community that is covered through the generous funding of the county through the Business Recovery Center. So please do not forget to send your week in Rary our way so that we can help those businesses continue to recover throughout the region. So thank you all. Go forward, have a fruitful day, stay healthy, and we'll all see you soon. Hugs to all.